Welcome to Salaam Nerds Podcast. We do reviews and recaps of your favorite TV shows. We are an inclusive recap show.
Yo, it's the Salaam Nerds. My name is Steve, aka Watch Me Leave, and I'm here with my boy Jazz.
We drop live episodes on YouTube on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. All episodes can also be found everywhere podcasts are found. Thank you to all our supporters. Please help us by subscribing and leaving a good review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yo, Salaam Nerds. It's your boy Neebs, aka Watch with Neebs, and I'm here with my co-host Jazz, aka DJ Dust.
DJ Dust. Like Thanos is snap and turn into dust, or
yeah, a little bit, little MCU reference. But before we get into why I chose Dust, we want to introduce our guest, Swara. Welcome to the show.
Salaam. Thanks for having me back on again, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we love having you back on, man. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. And we're like, all right, let's get you back on the show. Listen, you have an open invite. All you got to do is say the word and like you are on the show. Like
my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Always, brother.
I always love being on here.
We'll kick anybody else off too. If you want to be private and like you don't want anyone else, you want all the spotlight, we will kick them off the show.
Oh man. I
totally
love
will.
You guys.
How you been? Tell us a little bit about what's going on, man. Let the audience, get into your life.
It's funny. Like I feel like personally, everything's going great in my life. It's just the rest of the world, which is horrible, on fire. Just focusing on like Israel's genocide in Gaza every single day.
Yeah.
So that's like been predominantly on my mind. However, and I was just talking about this with y'all. Despite like the absolute fucking horrors, I actually do feel hopeful, not to like jinx anything, knock on wood, give my duas, etc. I really feel like the world is realizing just how horrible the Zionist entity is. It's like increasingly isolated on the world stage. Even though they keep making these horrific advances into Gaza, and they keep threatening the attacks on Rafah, the resilience and strength of the Palestinian people is beyond extraordinary and inspiring. But also, and I was just talking about this with y'all, like, I think that the statements coming out from the Israeli government and other officials, my gut reaction is of desperation from them, that they realize, like, oh, they're increasingly backed into a corner of having to make a ceasefire deal sooner rather than later, but they keep trying to puff up their chest and try to say, no, we're gonna like keep fighting, we're still gonna go to Rafah. However, looking at the economy, looking at the sheer amount of pressure, looking at just certain statements, looking at Biden the other day, who's been the most intransigent, saying, wait, quote, need a temporary ceasefire, that shows he's starting to break in his own position, and we just got to keep up the pressure here. So what we're doing is working, and what Palestinians say on the ground is keep doing what you're doing. So we got to keep doing what we're doing. That's honestly what's been constantly on my mind. Personally, life is going great. Just concerned about Gaza and Palestine every single day and free Palestine.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing, man. I mean, I know my friend was here earlier. Neebs and Swara did meet him, but internally, he was connected to the White House. He was the former director of AmeriCorps. What we're doing now is like we're explaining to Biden straight up, like, yo, short of unilaterally recognizing a Palestinian state, you're not going to win. So we're putting a lot of pressure on the inside.
Yeah. I remember I saw this quote from a Palestinian guy, and he was like, listen, you want to say the Palestinians are resilient? This is not a test of the Palestinians. They're guaranteed to go to heaven. They're martyrs. It's a test for us. We're the ones that are being put to the test. So it's what we do that matters. So I think about that often.
Yeah, Neebs, I've been thinking about that specific point, how we talk about throughout Swanasa cultures, regions, we talk about the concept of martyrdom a lot. Seeing what the Palestinians endure, I really understand the meaning of martyrdom
Hmm.
through watching what they've had to go through.
Really? Yeah, for sure, man. And that's why it's so important to speak up and talk about that, even if you may lose job opportunities or your TikTok account or whatnot. You know, it's one of those things, which kind of leads us to what we originally wanted to talk about, which was Bassem Youssef, who is a comedian and he's an actor. He's been in the show Upload. I don't know if you've ever seen Upload, but that is a really good show on Apple Prime, not Apple Prime, Amazon Prime. And he's done a few other things. And he was doing an interview and they talked about how he may have lost opportunities. And one of the opportunities that he thinks he may have lost was Superman Legacy. And it's very interesting how this all went down because he says that he lost this opportunity of Superman Legacy. He was going to be a villain. And then an article in IGN came out and it said that he never was fired. He never really had the job. And they wrote out the entire character, which is true. It happens often. I read the Marvel, The Reign of the MCU. This stuff happens all the time. But from his perspective, you can see why he would think that, you know,
With the
time
timing, yeah.
and stuff like that. But what got really interesting was the fact that, and then you point this out to me, and I made a TikTok about it. It was that Grace Randolph a few months ago had a scoop, and I'm not a big fan of hers, but like she is right more often than not. Like even though the whole like back when Miss Marvel was happening and she talked about whole like Jin stuff, part of me thinks she was right, and they quickly changed it after the backlash. So like she did us a solid, in my opinion. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this specific plot point that's been rumored about Superman Legacy for months from Grace Randolph, I think some
Mhm.
others as well, is that there would be a quote unquote conflict in the Middle East, i.e. West Asia, as we're trying to call it more now, that would have had involved Superman and the Justice League trying to quell a conflict between the fictional countries of Bialia and Korak,
Right.
which are fictional DC countries. I am when I first saw that rumor, I was praying, please let this not be real.
Hmm.
The last thing we need is in this Superman movie is for Western heroes to try to solve a conflict in the Middle East.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we've had enough of that, and I just like my family's, if the audiences know, my family's Kurdish from northern Iraq. So we're at very much at the center of like so much of this, and like the way like Western media and some superhero films, like we'll say like for example Iron Man depicting Afghanistan has
Right.
depicted these sorts of things has been terrible. But then I saw James Gunn respond to someone asking if this was true, and he said no, it isn't true. So I assumed at the time that because of everything happening in Gaza, that they had decided to scrap that plot. And I'm glad they did. Now, when I saw Bassem in this interview first, like it was an interview with Dean Obeidallah for Salon magazine, I initially didn't register. I didn't even want to think that it was like a Middle Eastern villain that he would be playing because I thought that plot may have been scrapped. So unfortunately, I was willing to believe the worst at first. And the thing is, like Bassem in that interview said, I want to presume good faith, but also the timing seemed so coincidental. But then, the story came out the next day in sources given to IGN and other websites. But the IGN story specifically gave a time frame that really did perfectly align with the writers and actors strike. And in between all this, like they did decide to get rid of this plot, but they couldn't tell Bassem because of the actors and writers strike. You're not allowed to
Mm.
do any writing, you're not allowed to like offer roles, I guess, during actor strike, yeah, whatever, like that sort of thing. So I think that there was one claim that it wasn't a decision made because of Gaza, but I think it definitely could have been, particularly like, as more and more there are like pro-Palestine voices, coming out. And I saw one person note that it's actually kind of good that James Gunn came in front of the story to assert that no, someone was not fired because they were pro-Palestine. And
Right.
that would have been unthinkable like a few months ago. So in that sense, like the pendulum really has changed. So that's what I'm grateful for. And on balance, even though I'm sad that Bassem lost out a role, but it wasn't for the nefarious, malicious reasons we initially expected, as we're primed to expect. It really was genuinely bad timing. And I would much rather not have this plot line.
Yeah.
And for Bassem to play another character, maybe later down the line he will. He and James Gunn are chill. Like, they had a conversation. And
Right.
this is put to rest. I'm really grateful it has been. So I can confidently say I'm still looking forward to Superman Legacy. I'm looking forward to, everything Bassem Youssef is doing. He's selling out shows across the country,
Hmm.
super successful. He's still a hot commodity. So I'm grateful that this went from presuming the worst to, oh no, actually, everything's kind of all right here.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of like a little roller coaster that we were going on, because I don't want to see him play this character, and we already seen this character in Wonder Woman 1984. It was terrible, and it was racist,
Yep.
and it was horrible. So I'm kind of glad that didn't happen. There are people online that are still mad and saying, "Oh, he needs to apologize." And I think, listen, if he needs to apologize, it's not to you, it's not to the audience, it's to James Gunn. And considering they both talk to each other privately, they probably both apologize to each other. And James Gunn admitted that there might have been some mishandling and communication on the studio's part. And and for him, he might have jumped to conclusions. So it's kind of seemed like the whole thing is squashed, and it seems like we could just all move on. I definitely want to see him in future things. I think he does a great job. He's really great in Upload. Check it out. But yeah, I'm glad this had a bit of a happy ending and not something super terrible.
You often don't see that. It was kind of like really wholesome in a way. And it's like, it seems like, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, why are we focusing so much on this in the midst of everything going on in Gaza? But I also realized that, it's because it's a linchpin of, oh, is someone going to get fired? Is someone going to lose their job or opportunities because of being pro-Palestine, which is something understandably many are afraid of. But the thing is, like, we have like so many, for example, look at the artists for ceasefire list. By the way, I don't know if like y'all mentioned this on a show before, or I think I had mentioned it to y'all privately, but so there have been 2 celebrity letters, right? There was the one that came out right in October, the really one-sided, distorting, no hostage left behind letter, which blamed absolutely 100% everything on Hamas, said nothing about Israel's action, signed by a bunch of celebrities. And then you had like about a month and a half later, the Artists for Ceasefire letter, much better letter, like really focused for Palestine and for Palestinian sovereignty, signed by a bunch of really good celebrities. And there was even a little bit of overlap between those 2 letters. But as of at least a few weeks ago, that first letter, the super distorting, no hostage left behind letter, that letter is gone.
Yeah.
It is off the servers. Like, that
Whoa.
goes to show, yeah, you can't find it. That goes to show that, and this is something my fiance and I talked about, which she theorized, that a sufficient amount of celebrities want to take their names off that first letter to the point when they were like, no, so it's not enough. We can't keep this letter up. We can't justify keeping this letter up anymore, or to show that many people have left it is like,
That's
so it's now
crazy.
So now it's now toxic. They're realizing, oh, and certain celebrities like Zoe Saldana, who had posted about that letter on their social media, they took those posts out. So now it's increasingly toxic it's toxic to be in support of Israel, really. I mean, like, not necessarily in terms of like the institutions, the companies that like employ them, but rather like their fans don't want it. And it's like
Yeah.
the public relations and what Israel is doing. So like, yeah, it's great to see.
No, it really is. Wow. That's pretty crazy, man. I never thought I'd see the day. That's wow.
Activism works.
Yeah. Well, speaking of some of the stuff that's happening in the Middle East, Dune 2 is coming out. What are your thoughts about that? Take your time.
Well, first thing I will do is pitch people should listen to my podcast, The Middle Geeks, and our review of the first Dune movie. If you're going to go watch the second one, you'll realize just how much it's appropriated from Swana and Muslim cultures. And, but in this instance of Dune 2, I mean, we gotta talk about the Anya Taylor Joy.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
This white woman, she like had, I don't know if it's a hijab or like another, or like chador or like other like type of veil, that Muslim women wear. And she was just like having it as a fashion statement, and she's playing some sort of secret character in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
This movie that like, has a bunch of white people playing, playing like roles that should have Swana people. And it's just because, like, as obviously, we're three Muslim men here, a Muslim woman could like probably speak better on this, but I bet like they'd say the same, that like they feel entitled to our culture, and they just won't have us. There's one Arab actress in this movie, but she's like a background character, and just like, it's a sad state of affairs.
That's really, really sad. And it's one of those things, and it always reminds me of like Black people have been saying this forever. Like, they want to be us, but they don't want to be us, right? It's what they say. And we're getting a little taste of that. I mean, it's not compared to what Black people have been through and what they deal with, but it's a little taste of that. And you kind of see it because this woman is being applauded for her fashion, but if a Muslim woman wears something similar, they will drag her and tell her to take it off. Like, and the thing is, like, I used to hear these stories and I used to think like they're one-offs. And then like, people I know tell me that these stories happened to him, and I'll be like, what? Someone I know, like, this actually happened? And it's wild. And I've seen them people in the comment sections, and like everyone is praising, and it's like, that's the definition of appropriation. Like, you're having somebody who's not from that culture wearing this and being praised for it, while someone else, gets oppressed because of it, right? There was a time in France where you could not wear a hijab or a niqab, but you can wear a hoodie and a mask. And in fact, you had to wear a mask. It was the law. So like, by law, you had to wear a mask on your face, but you couldn't wear like a niqab, because it's literally the same thing. And it just goes to show you how much blatant Islamophobia is happening in the world, and what Muslim women have to deal with.
Yeah.
So it's hard to support this. It's hard to want to support this movie, because, like, number one, everybody knows how much of Middle Eastern culture is in this movie, goes into this movie. Like, the writer literally says it, spells it out. There's nothing you have to interpret it. And then they went out of their way to just cast a bunch of people to cosplay as brown people. Javier Bardem is the whole ass white man. That is a whole ass white man.
Like, the emperor is called a Padishah. It's so blatant.
It's and he's wearing brown face. That's not his skin tone. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's like very obvious, like, it's based on Iraq, because the planet they're on, it's called Arrakis. Like, like, you can't really take that away.
I know. And I've heard people say that, like, oh, they didn't want to cast Swana actors because then it'd be too obvious and it'd be offensive. And I was like, You can cast them in other roles. there is
You just missed the
millions,
entire point, people.
Or get us to write in your movie. Like,
right?
just
Shocking.
I do know that Reza Aslan was hired to consult for the first Dune, but also I have a lot of criticisms of Reza Aslan, and I think, like, personally, he'd be a bit of a sellout. So yeah, we're going to. Thankfully, I have a screening for this movie, so I'm not paying to watch it. you know, we will still be reviewing it for our podcast, The Middle Geeks. It's like, and we're doing it because this is such a popular franchise.
Yeah.
And no one else is talking about it, other than us here.
Yeah, I mean, we got to talk about it.
Yeah, we got to talk about it. We got to, like, let the non-Muslims, non-Swanasa peoples know this is really fundamentally problematic, So,
Yeah. You got a comment here. It says, even in the Miles Morales movie, they had Malala Windsor who wore the hijab across
Yeah.
Spider-Verse. And that's a good representation because
yeah,
they gave her some time. They gave her a name, a Muslim name, and they kind of related to what character she's supposed to be. And they made her wear hijab as a spider person, which is really interesting because technically you don't need a hijab once you have the spider mask on, which is interesting. Though she can take off her mask and still be in a hijab technically. So that is pretty interesting. The thought that went behind that is a lot better than the thought that goes behind some of these other movies. I really love that movie. That movie is dope. I love Spider-Verse.
Oh, it's a treasure.
Spider-Verse is peak. It's peak.
So good. So good. But speaking of Spider-Man, there is another show that came out around the same time as Spider-Man, and it's called The Xmen. And Xmen97 is back.
Let's go.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about Xmen97? Did you see the trailer, Swar?
I have one word.
Oh, yeah?
Hype.
Uncanny.
Okay, that's it. But yes, hype.
Okay. Yeah, I love the X-Men cartoon when I was a kid. Yeah, definitely formative, to my love of superheroes. I'm kind of meh, to be quite honest. I'm sorry.
Really?
I watched the trailer. The animation to me, and this is, like, really disappointing for me because I know it's from Studio Mir, and I love Studio Mir. They did Korra, they did some other things for Avatar: Last Airbender, they did Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beast, which is an amazing series on Netflix. They've done Young Justice seasons 3 and 4. Like, they're an amazing studio. The animation in this, I mean, obviously we need to judge it when we see the show. It looked really stilted to me, like, more than I think it should be. I mean, I know the 90s series had that, but that was, like, for the budgets they had at the time. And I'll just be blunt and say I'm not a fan of Marvel Studios animation. I really don't like the animation What If, for example, which
I don't like that either.
Right, yeah, which I think is trying to replicate the live action way too much. It doesn't really use its imagination. I don't know. I'm willing to give it a chance. I like these characters, I guess, enough. I will say I've been sort of down on the X-Men as a whole because y'all will know this. I'm not a fan of our favorite superhero girl, Kamala Khan, being made into an X-Man. So maybe I feel a bit bitter about that, and I would be afraid of her appearing in Xmen97.
Oh, wow. I never even thought of that. That is
it's
a
possible,
chance. It is
yeah.
possible.
Oh,
It is
they're gonna animate
possible.
that. Oh,
They could.
okay, yeah.
Well, listen. If
I
she
wouldn't be
has
mad.
if she has her regular powers, then
Yeah,
like,
That's
sure,
cool.
I might be more for that. But I don't know. I've been down on MCU stuff as a whole, so I'm sorry to be the Debbie Downer here. I just I know my expectations are measured overall.
Sure.
I don't want to like dampen y'all's hype at all.
That's fair. I mean, I feel like everybody has different things. You're not one of the. I know you mentioned the animation. You're not one of the people that's like, hey, Rogue's ass is not round enough. This is this is horrible. Yeah. I've seen people complaining about the animation because Rogue doesn't have the same features that she has. And I'm just like, bro, this is a
Dumb.
cartoon. What are you planning on doing with this image, sir? Like, I don't understand.
Wow.
This is like, it's not like one off. It's like hundreds of people. And I'm just like, what is wrong with these dudes? Oh, man. But no, but listen, we mentioned Kamala Khan possibly beating it. But did you see the Easter egg that Dust is canon to this?
Oh yeah. Oh Dust. Surya Kadir. I have so many feelings about
Listen,
this
say what you want
character.
about Dust. She is officially the first Marvel superhero that's Muslim. I think she's the one. Way before Kamala Khan. She's been there since like I think
Yes.
02.
Yes. And oh god, listen, I just want someone to save Surya Kadir from the Orientalist gaze of white men creators. Or no, sorry, not like white men, because Grant Morrison is non-binary, they them. But yeah, it was Grant Morrison and EVS actually who created her. So that artist being the one who created her, just like. Oh boy, okay, that's a whole other podcast.
Listen,
But,
say what you want. There are some
Yeah.
problematic things about it, but
yes,
that
yes,
is a
there are.
character.
Very much so.
But I think that's a character that can be saved. There are a lot of
Yes.
ways to save this character and make it for
Get-
the new year and make it amazing.
Did you all see Sada Al Fajri's like
Yes.
redesign? Yeah, like
I
do
love that
something like
redesign. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Like if
Yeah.
they decide to do something like that and give her a personality, I mean, and she had a good personality. I mean, I think X-Men Evolution is a
Mhm.
cartoon that she was in. There was a
Wait,
good
she was
job
in
with
X-Men
that.
Evolution? Really?
X-Men
I
and
don't-
Wolverine and the X-Men. I think that one.
Wolverine and the X-Men probably.
Wolverine
yeah.
and the X-Men. I think that's the one.
Yeah. Like my problem with this character is like just she's meant to be Afghan, but like it's so painfully evident. I wrote about this in this article for IO9 I did about Kamala being part of the X-Men. Like the writers did little to no research about like what it actually means to be an Afghan nationality, and I don't know if she's Pashtun or like another ethnicity. The thing is, they say like, oh, because she's from Afghanistan, she's a fluent speaker of Arabic. Arabic is not like the predominant language. It's like maybe something like 3% of the population. She would be speaking Pashto or another Indo-Iranian language.
Pashto or
like in the
Farsi
region.
would be the
Pashto or Farsi, yeah.
Right.
Or Dari, yeah.
Sorry.
So like, and the thing is like, she wears like her headdress, she wears her bodysuit, and the thing is they made it so it was tight on her,
Yeah.
so she was still
form
accentuate, which
form
is
revealing.
completely,
Yeah.
which is completely not the point of like wearing something like that. And she says as much. The one good thing is like that she says, I remember that she says like in the comics like, oh, I want to wear this because of like my faith, because I want to feel away from the eyes of men, etc. That's good, but other than that, like this is, and even her powers, being able to turn into sand, like, it's just like, what are we doing here with this character? But again, if Muslim and especially Afghan creators are able to be involved with her and write about her, hell, if we had like, even though she's not Afghan, at least she's like, from somewhere that shares a border. If like Iman Vellani, wrote Surya, maybe, and also we could change her name. I hate the name Dust. Give her like, so, and like I forget who said it, but someone said like they need to expand her powers beyond simply turning into dust, like make it more.
Well, here's the thing.
Overall molecular.
It's actually a really great power, and Jazz could tell you because in anime there is a character called Crocodile in One Piece, and they do so much with this one power. Like you can dehydrate somebody, you can you can like totally like wither something. There's a lot of things you can do with sand. So it is a very powerful power, and I feel like this character in the right hands, in a Muslim hand and an Afghan hand, this could be a great, fantastic character. Like, she is not one of the characters where I'm just like, there's no saving her. Like, I feel like there is a lot of potential still left in this character. And like, we have to realize this character came out like literally after 9/11. like it literally came after. So it's not a surprise that it's super problematic, but it's still a character that came out, and I think it still has a lot of potential.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then the final thing, well, not the final thing I want to talk about, but should we talk about Madam Web?
Yes.
So Madam Web came out this week to disastrous reviews. Terrible. And it's really interesting because like people were watching The Marvels, which is getting its new like leg because everyone's watching it on Disney Plus and realizing it's not that bad. It's actually not as terrible as like the bros made it out to be. Like, it has its problems. It's not the greatest. I mean, but everyone's like, it's the worst movie Marvel has ever made. And I was like, you guys don't know a real, truly bad movie. let me reintroduce you guys to Madam Web. And now I was like, yes, the power scaling is accurate. Let's figure this out. So you have actually seen Madam Web. Is it as bad as people are saying it's bad? Without giving away any spoilers, which I don't even care to spoiler warn people at this point.
So I will tell y'all, Sony did not do critic screenings for this movie. At first, I was confused when I didn't get an email, but then I had it confirmed by my friend Hannah on her Fade to Black podcast that Sony straight up did not do any screenings of this movie for critics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So I bought a ticket because I was reviewing it for another podcast for Hall of Justice with Seth Everett. Y'all should check out that review when it's out. I love the Venom movies because they're so gloriously terrible and just don't take themselves that seriously. And Madam Web, I'm happy to say, has fallen into the same category for me, where you have this ridiculous, stupid dialogue script. You have these actors that are phoning a lot of it in, but also still having some fun. You have like so many references, but not real references to Spider-Man.
I don't know what that means.
Like,
a reference, but
like,
not a real reference.
No, but like that's the thing. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it, and we gotta like talk about it. It's like just there was one review, I think it was in Rolling Stone, that called this the Cats of superhero movies. And I'm so happy to confirm that's the case.
I'm in now.
Yes, Jazz. It's just like, for me, if a movie falls in this so bad it's good category, I'm happy. But I'm also, in terms of making a comparison with the MCU, and part of why I'm currently very exhausted with the MCU is the constant connections it tries to make with other film and TV shows, and how self-serious it really is. A lot of these films really are, and how seriously they want you to take it without, in my opinion, really putting in the work for their characters to have fully resonant and impactful arcs, especially compared to their source material. I mean, while I agree with you, The Marvels is not the worst, superhero movie by any means or anything, I do personally think it failed a lot in that regard. And as someone who cares a lot about these characters, I'm like, I really want more. With something like Madam Web, when I know they're not taking it seriously at all, I'm just like, yo, this is freaking hilarious, and I'm just here for that. So I encourage you to watch it. Go get a ticket and watch it, and like, let's get a Madam Web too. I'm here for it. I'm so here for it.
Watch it like a comedy. Got it.
Yes, exactly.
Madam Web 2, Electric Boogaloo. Like, I don't know what.
It's already made like $49 million. We just need to get it to like 120 or something, and like, it'll have made back its budget. You know,
I,
so
I,
let's or
I heard it only made $6
yeah.
million in his opening day, though.
No, I think it made like 49 million so far.
Ah. Well,
Yeah.
I think his
No,
opening day was Valentine's Day, which makes
right.
it very difficult because no
Yeah.
one's going to see a spider movie on Valentine's Day.
Right. The opening on Valentine's Day was very weird. But then so is this movie, you know.
Is there any relevance to Valentine's Day in this movie?
No, not at all. Absolutely not.
That's so weird. What a strange movie. All right. So all right, there you have it. Madam Web may be so bad, it's good. Not mad at that. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about. Fantastic Four character reveals. What are your thoughts about that? Jazz, you want to go first?
I'm in, but also at the same time, I'm like, really, Pedro Pascal again?
Yeah.
Like, of all the things he's in, people, like, there are other actors out there. Don't get me wrong, I love him, but like, come on now. That was my initial reaction, and that's really all I have for it.
The character I'm most excited about is the guy from The Bear who's going to play Ben Grimm, because the first time Ben Grimm is going to be played by a Jewish actor and is a Jewish character. So I thought that was really cool.
Finally, representation that's accurate.
Yeah. And I, like one of my friends, Danielle and Sarah, pointed out to me, like, for a comic book company that has, like, so many Jewish artists that are responsible for so many characters, they haven't really done a good job in Jewish representation.
Nope.
I love Moon Knight, but I think they really did not do a good job about that. Wanda dropped the ball on that. So many other characters that they kind of dropped the ball on. And then the one they were about to give us is an Israeli propaganda. So, like, nobody wants that. Even Jewish people themselves are like, this is not the one we want. And they finally get Ben Grimm, and they're really happy, and I'm really happy for them. This is awesome, and I'm excited for that. And I think this is probably the character I'm probably the most excited about, because I love him on The Bear, and I love that there's representation here too. So it's really cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah, 100% agreed. The actor Iban Mas Bacharach, yeah, like, he seems awesome. Also, both he and Pedro are signatories of the Artists for Ceasefire.
Yes.
So yeah, so like at least two out of the four Fantastic Four are pro-Palestine. I will say that Joseph Quinn, many people have been complaining about, why he's cast for Giant Storm. Also, he signed, unfortunately, the first horrible letter that was in support of Israel. But, hopefully he did that out of, like, ignorance. And like my friend Nadia mentioned to me, often a lot of these celebrities, they'll just have signed something off, their desk because they think, like, oh, I got to do it in the moment for the cause. And, like, hopefully he realized, especially after having pro-Palestine co-stars like Pedro and Ebon, like, realizing, like, oh, Israel is actually evil, like, and what they're doing. So it's yeah, like, I'm on the whole fantastic Vanessa Kirby. I think she's a great actress. I especially like yeah, Dell says, I'm sorry guys, I'm afraid Fantastic Four is just boring. I'm sorry. Dell, I kind of, like, feel you there a bit, because, like, I don't think they're boring. I'm just like, we've had so many iterations of the Fantastic Four.
Fan Four stick.
Fan Four stick. Like,
don't you dare.
What else? Like, I'm gonna watch it because, like, again, like, there are pro-Palestine stars in this, and honestly, like, that is how I'm going forward with, like, a lot of the media I'm going to be consciously consuming. For example, I'm really excited for Wicked, because at least two of the stars, Bowen Yang and the guy playing Bach, who's Ariana Grande's boyfriend, and there was all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
But he's also pro-Palestine. I'm like, I'm in. I also love Wicked, so I'm like, and I love Michelle Yeoh. I love Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo. It looks fantastic. It both looks fantastic and it has pro-Palestine stars in it. So, with Fantastic Four, we got pro-Palestine stars, and hopefully it'll look really good. And I really do like the director. I forget his name at the moment. But he did WandaVision, and he's a great director. So,
Hmm.
I'm excited for that. I guess like also compared to another MCU film coming out this year, Deadpool. We talked about like the director Sean Levy. He is like an ardent Zionist, and he also, to my knowledge, he did sign the first horrible letter. I think his tone is modulated better on like the conversation about Palestine. Well, maybe slightly. He hasn't really like talked about Palestinian lives. He's only talked about like, oh, Israelis who have suffered, instead of the tens of thousands of Palestinians. So it's like, I'm, I don't know. I know about Deadpool 3 for me at this point. Like, I mean, I know I might still watch it in a critic screening, but like, yeah, but of all the like projects we got like coming out, like I'm excited for Fantastic Four and Wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked movie looks great.
Dude, Wicked, I'm so hyped for. Like, Defying Gravity is something I will just belt out when I'm in the shower every now and then. Like,
Seriously,
I've
like, true, yeah.
I've read the book, and the book is so much darker than the actual play and the story, and it's so dark. And I'm really curious if they're going to do like that version of it, because
No,
that
I
is
think
it.
they
It's
are.
definitely the Broadway. It's definitely the Broadway
Well,
version, but
I don't know.
I think
different.
I think they're doing the Broadway version, but they're implementing elements of the book, which I'm really
Yeah.
excited
Mhm.
for, especially as they're
Very
making
cool.
it 2 parts. And like John M. Chu, he has a vision. He has like 2 bangers already with Crazy Rich Asians and um In the Heights. So yeah, looking forward to his vision.
Yeah. The thing I really like about the Fantastic Four is it does seem like they're going in a very different direction. It looks like it's going to be a 60s period piece, or at least half of it is going to be in a
Yeah.
60s period piece. So they're going to start off with the 60s. They have Herbie, which is their little computer, which we've never seen in live action, which is really, really cool.
Is he fully loaded?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Better
With
be.
Lindsay Lohan. Oh man. I don't know.
Lindsay Lohan is Galactus.
Yeah. Oh my god, that'd be so
You know what?
great.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Please make this happen.
That would be amazing. But it's really interesting that it looks like it's going to be part of the 60s, because there is a line in Multiverse of Madness where Reed Richards is introduced as the Fantastic Four, and Doctor Strange goes, "Didn't you chart in the 60s?" So like now I'm thinking like, was that thrown in there? Did they knew that the
They
Fantastic
knew.
Four would take place in the 60s? And then I'm like,
They knew.
how is that going to be relevant? Like, is there an actual band called the Fantastic Four, and they're just going to be listening to it while they're like going to space? And then there's a time jump, and they come back, and nobody remembers this band, and they just name themselves after this band. Like, is that what's going to happen?
You heard it here first,
I
because
know, that's
that
my
is a
theory.
solid theory.
I don't know, but I don't know. I'm excited for it, and the thing is, like, Fantastic Four is the flagship, in my opinion, of the Marvel universe now, because I think they're the ones that are going to, because like no other like movie has been able to really get us a handle on the multiverse. Like, we thought it would be Doctor Strange, it really wasn't. The Marvels didn't do much with the multiverse. Loki, yeah, okay, for sure Loki did, but Loki is gone. He is not a character that's going to be used. He's, doing his thing with the tree now. So like there needs to be a really like big Marvel character that is going to bring everything together. And I think that's going to Fantastic Four. I don't think it's going to be Wolverine and Deadpool. I think that's just going to be for shits and giggles. And then that movie's just
It's
going to
money
go.
printer.
Yeah, I mean, that movie's going to go. I mean, also, I don't think Hugh Jackman wants to play Wolverine anymore. Ryan Reynolds doesn't want to play Deadpool anymore. They kind of just want to hang it up and just go out with a bang. And which is fair. I dig that. So they need somebody to really bring in
Yeah.
the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
So this is the question for me though, Neebs. Like, so love Pedro. But also the guy is pushing 48. So, or
Yep.
pushing 50 at 48. So he'll be Reed Richards, but for a relatively limited time, like in the scape of these superhero universes. And I just like, I think at some point they just gotta do a full-on reboot, because I'm not sure, for example, that they're probably going for Young Avengers, although we'll see if they keep doing that based on the box office reception of the Marvels, which it's sad for me to say, like, because I want Iman to be successful, but
Yeah.
I don't know, facts is facts. So what really is the long-term game? Like, what other characters will they use? How much of the scraping of the bottom of the barrel will they be doing? And this is where, like, I keep beating my drum of, like, being kind of over the super united, superhero universe, because at some point it just, like, kind of collapses on itself. I mean, the main culprit here is time, which I don't think that Marvel Studios really is going to be able to fully account for. So I'm kind of in favor at this point of, I mean, I think they'll do Secret Wars, and maybe that'll lead to some sort of full-on reboot, which I would be down for. But I also think that general audiences would be super confused by. And something I really want Disney and Marvel Studios to understand is that, like, not everything needs to be an intricately drawn out plan. Everything connects, and, like, I think the general audiences are tired of everything is connected, and I don't think Marvel Studios has fully, like, gotten that memo yet. So I'm hopeful when they can just full on make a reboot and just say that to general audiences, and like, start over with something new, maybe with, like, different heroes this time. And I don't know, like, it's like, I feel I don't want to, like, diss on any more than I may have already. I didn't mean to, though, like, actors already acting in these roles, but yeah, it's like, I don't know how it's going to go forward in general.
So my theory is that they're going to keep this going until Secret Wars. And what happened is, a lot of people don't know this, but there are contracts that they actually cannot recast any X-Men until 2025, right? So what I think is going to happen is they're going to use all of these X-Men characters. We already saw Beast. We already saw Professor Xavier. Well, did he be? Yeah, no, I think he's dead. But we're going to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to be introduced to the X-Men in Secret Wars, and then there's going to be a giant reset. And the giant reset isn't going to be a reboot. I think we're still going to have the main MCU, which is the 616 MCU, but we're going to get Elseworld stories. So it's going to be like, hey, like, it's going to be like What If, but live action, right? But not as terrible is what I'm thinking, because it's kind of like, we have the DCU, which is going to be the new James Gunn universe, but the Matt Reeves universe is still going to exist. The Joker universe is still going to exist, right? So I feel like if they can do something like that, like, instead of a What If story, it's just the same story, but, like, in a darker tone, in a comedy tone, in a family-friendly tone, like, like, different genres for these movies. I think that's the way they're gonna go, and we might get to see. And then I think the X-Men are definitely going to be rebooted. We're not gonna use these characters. There's no way any of these people are coming back. They've played them for way too long, so we'll need a brand new X-Men cast.
Yeah. When you say, like, all these movies are gonna happen, like, all these different genres, like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them end up on, like, Disney Plus as opposed to being in theaters.
Sure, yeah.
Like, we're gonna see a lot of that. And I think Marvel is getting the message that, not everything has to be connected, because, like, in the first 3 phases of the MCU, right, all the way to Endgame, it wasn't that the movies were always connected, right? It was just introducing one storyline, then another storyline, then maybe the next movie was, carrying on the storyline of the first one. And it was only in very special moments that they all come together. So I think they're realizing that, hey, that's the magic formula. It wasn't everything be connected. It was everything being connected at a very specific time that just brought it all together. And I think they're going back to that. So very excited to see that. But unfortunately, we have characters like Kamala Khan, and they're not going to get a Miss Marvel season 2, unfortunately. So
no, it doesn't.
I don't think we talked about it on the
Yeah,
podcast, but all the shows, they're not getting a season 2 right now. So
yeah.
yeah.
So it is what it is. I would not be surprised if we still get a Young Avengers, but I think they really need to market the Young Avengers as a family friendly kids movie and just let all these like fan bros know that, hey, this movie isn't for you, right? It's like a Spy Kids movie or like whatever, right? It's like a high quality Spy Kids. This is not for you. This is for a movie where you can bring your kids to go see this movie. There's not going to be any cursing. There's not going to be any like foul language. The violence is going to be very tame. If they promote it like this and set that expectation, this could be a really, really good movie because kid action movies do well. They don't do terrible. So it's just the way they would need to market this. I think it would do really, really well. And the fanboys can't complain about it because it's not for them.
Yeah, totally. I, like as someone who, in an ideal world, still would love to see Miss Marvel start part of the Champions rather than Young Avengers.
That's true.
Who knows? Maybe they'll call them the Champions. I don't know. Still, yeah, that's their way to go, and that's the vibe of like most of these characters, and we'll see how that goes. Neebs, to your earlier, or sorry, Jazz, to your earlier point of them having stuff on Disney Plus, they definitely will have like some projects on Disney Plus, but I really think they're still going to focus a lot on theaters. I think they realized that Disney Plus in many ways was a mistake that lost them a lot of money. So they're definitely prioritizing theatrical releases. I think they also realized, and I think we especially saw this with the Marvels, that you can't necessarily translate a TV watching audience into a movie going audience. Like, you can't use like WandaVision, and unfortunately, like, Miss Marvel, as good as it was, it had some of the lowest ratings for a Disney Plus show, which I blame the marketing for. Disney, do better by your marketing for POC, please.
I blame white people. And I say that as a joke, but also like Miss Marvel had the highest rating for people of color, for Black, Asian, Hispanic households. It had the highest numbers. So like, what else can you conclude from that other than the fact that white people didn't show up for the show?
It is what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a sad, like, and the thing is, like, that makes me more upset because I do think that this show, and like I've discussed on podcasts, I think I've discussed with you all, like, as good as it was, it still diluted things from the source material, specifically in the specific interpersonal racism that Kamala Khan faces, at school particularly, to make a white audience more comfortable. Yeah. But they still didn't show up. So to that, I say, Disney, Marvel, stop shying away from these. I mean, I will say, it was good at how they did it in terms of like the government overseeing, Muslim communities, which is certainly very relevant for today, unfortunately. In fact, yeah.
That's probably who's in our viewers right now. Those two live people, they're probably our FBI agent and our CIA agent.
Oh my God. No, but like, yeah, I still think, like, in terms of the interpersonal nature of it, that would have like white viewers at home actually confront themselves. This is why I loved American Born Chinese so much. Fantastic. One of the best series on Disney Plus, and then they canceled it. I'm
of course
so
they did.
mad. Mad. One of the best series they had. Oh, God. Just, I hate Disney execs. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to
Except
say
for Maria,
hate,
she's
but
amazing.
rather like, yes, absolutely. Sorry, let me rephrase my words. I am extremely frustrated with Disney execs and just like, please do better, please.
Yeah, and speaking of which, get rid of this 6-episode limit thing because that is also terrible. So we definitely don't want that anymore. But listen, as bad as Disney execs are, at least they're not Sony execs, because like Amy Pascal is now like, oh, after 2 movies, we're going to make a Miles Morales movie. And I'm like, no, you don't touch Miles Morales. Please do not touch Miles Morales. I was like, if anyone's going to do that, let it be the Spider-Verse people, because I don't have any faith in Amy Pascal when it comes to that. And like, I say that like, not as like, oh, like, how like Kathleen Kennedy haters are. I'm not trying to be like that. They leaked her emails. Like, I've read her leaked emails when Sony hacked them. Sony got hacked by Korea, and Like some of the stuff she was mentioning and suggesting was so dumb. It's like she's never read a comic book in her life, let alone a Spider-Man comic book, and it just scares the crap out of me. And I was just like, wow, those emails were embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, are you surprised?
Yeah, I'm
No.
surprised. Like, it's someone head of a studio,
He's
and
an
you're
executive at Sony, though. Like,
and your biggest IP is Spider-Man, and you don't know anything about Spider-Man. No, you do
Of
your
course.
research. You
no,
do
dude,
your
people fail
research.
upwards in corporate world all the time. Like, we have some of the dumbest people running companies, and quite frankly, our government too. While we're at it, like,
I don't.
people fail upwards.
I know people do that all the time, but I feel like there should be an expectations for you to research your IP and,
Sure,
and
yeah,
learn about
that's
it. Kevin
ideal
Feige's
world.
done it. Kevin Feige's done it. Kathleen
Mhm.
Kennedy, like as much as people hate her, she knows Star Wars.
Yeah,
He was taught by George Lucas. Like, like it's one of those things. And
I
don't know.
really think that by and large, across all of these companies, the ultimate thing is they need to slow down, which thankfully Marvel Studios is starting to do.
Yeah.
Which Star Wars has started to do. Although, like, I would really appreciate if Star Wars stops announcing stuff before they ultimately cancel it. I am still worried about Charmino Bay-Chinoy's movie. I hope it still happens.
Yeah.
Like, the ultimate problem, the ultimate culprit, as always, is capitalism.
Yeah.
Is making this.
What's
And I
new?
mentioned this on another podcast I was on earlier, that we have this industrial complex of these genre movies that just keep coming down the pipeline no matter what their quality is.
Well, that's
They just-
because Disney Plus is this giant thing that they
Mhm.
need to make successful, and they need content for Disney Plus. They don't
Yeah,
care if it's good.
this
They
is
don't care if
true.
it's
This is
bad.
true.
They need content. And like,
Mhm.
it's supposed to be their Netflix, but it's really hurting them quite a bit. And I think you mentioned
Yeah.
that earlier.
Yeah, I think across the board, like you're right, Neebs, like all these companies, they have access to some sort of streaming service or another, and they just like want to keep pumping content onto it, and that's just damaging for the public, for the viewing audience, for the artists. Although thankfully with the writers and actors strike, at least they're getting better residuals. But yeah, they just like, I don't know, man. It's still like a very scary time for wanting to make art in this industry, and I really hope that something's got to give sooner or later.
We'll have the TV version of A24 Studios come out. It'll be great.
Yeah, exactly. Bless
That's true.
A24.
Unless AI starts pumping out movies for these freaking
No.
studios.
Nope. I veto it. I rebuke it. Absolutely rebuke it.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for this episode. Swara, thank you so much for being on here. We talked about a lot of things, a lot more things than I was expecting to talk about. So it was a good conversation. Always fun talking with you. Always love to have you on. Let people know where they can find you.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. Before I talk about where y'all can find me, I have an announcement. And I want thank you to Salaam Nerds audience for listening to me ramble on. And if you enjoyed what I said, first off, you might want to check out my podcast, The Middle Geeks, where we discuss anything and everything in Southwest Asian and North African Swana media. And if you're in the DC area, or you're coming to the DC area for AwesomeCon, which is this March 8th through 10th, we, the Middle Geeks, along with our friends, will have a panel on Swana representation in pop culture on March 9th.
Woo-woo.
It'll be from 2:30 to 3:15 on March 9th. That's a Saturday. We got the Saturday slot right after lunch. So grateful for that. And we're going to be in room 207B. So this is AwesomeCon at the Walter E. Convention Center in Washington, D.C. 2:30 to 3:15 at room 207B. So please come check us out. Come listen to 6 Swana artists, podcasters, actors talk about our experiences and talk about the state of Swana representation in pop culture. We'll have a Q&A session. It's sure to be a great time. And yeah, let's be out there repping and speaking up for Swana peoples, especially in this like horrible moment. Let's especially speak up for Palestinians.
Yes.
And yeah, y'all can find me there. You can find me on social media anywhere at Spider Swars. And yeah, like you can check out some of my writing at The New Era, at IO9, Nerds of Color, But Why Though, and other websites. So yeah.
What a
Very
start
cool.
to Ramadan. I love it.
I know.
Yeah, what a way to start Ramadan. Exactly.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'll try to make it and see if I can. I'll look at my schedule. That'll be awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. And until next time, Salaam, nerds.